Joined now by Todd Lewis. And Todd, you've had the chance to talk to a few players as well. What are they saying?
You know, it's interesting. When the news came out that Keegan Bradley was going to be named Ryder Cup captain for the United States team, sure, those with Ryder Cup experience for the U.S. team, their eyebrows went north. But after they digested it a bit, they said, wow, this is actually a good pick. And I've spoken with several players via text who have Ryder Cup experience. As a matter of fact, just before we came on the air, Tony Finau reached out and said, I'm stoked for Keegan, and I absolutely love the pick. He's going to be a great captain, and I love the opportunity to play for him next year. Brian Harman, of course, who is the reigning champion golfer of the year. He'll be defending his championship at Troon next week. He was a part of the United States team last fall that, unfortunately for him and the rest of the U.S. team, lost in Rome. He said, in part, he embodies what it means to be passionate about the event. Wyndham Clark, also part of that U.S. team last fall that unfortunately lost. He says, I have tons of respect for Keegan and think he'll be a great captain. He's a fierce competitor, and I know he will do great. And he also implied that, yes, as Ricky Fowler said, Keegan, who's a top 20 player in the world, could play himself on that U.S. team. I also had a chance to communicate with Bryson DeChambeau. Now, Clark and Harman are in Scotland right now on the PGA Tour. Bryson DeChambeau is playing on Live Golf. He's in Spain this week. And here's what the reigning U.S. Open champion had to say. I believe he will be a great captain no matter who is on the team. He is young and knows the game very well. I think he will relate to the younger up-and-coming players also. Currently, Bryson DeChambeau is second in U.S. Ryder Cup team standings. So, yes, it's a very positive message from all the players with Ryder Cup experience. They respect the heck out of Keegan. He's proven himself on the golf course, won 2 times last season, nearly won a couple times here this season. As I mentioned, a top 20 player in the world. They respect his passion, his intent to make sure that the United States stays powerful in this series. That's something that hasn't been the case over the last decade or so. So all in all, a very good response from those who have Ryder Cup experience. In the fact that Keegan Bradley is the captain.
DeChambeau is indeed second in those standings right now, Todd. And as a matter of fact, the captain is 24th. So there is the possibility of him indeed playing his way onto this team. However, he has no experience in leadership positions for the Ryder Cup or the President's Cup. So how do the players think, and what do you think that will impact the team room?
Yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic with the fact that he hasn't been in a team room since 2014 at Glen Eagles, and he was there as a player. So that's just about 10 years. And he mentioned in his press conference today in regards to his vice captains that he wants to have younger players in the room as vice captains, some closer to his own age, those players that are currently full-time players on the PGA Tour. So it sounds like that he's going to bring some vice captains into that room that don't have a lot of management experience in the Ryder Cup as well. But I think he will lean on a couple of, we'll call them elders in the Ryder Cup room. And I look for him to lean on Davis Love III, who was his captain at Medina in 2012. And as he talked about today in his press conference, he's going to lean on Tiger Woods, who has been a powerful influence for him. As a matter of fact, he spoke with Tiger Woods this morning prior to his press conference. So those two, I think he'll lean on. But it will be a very different Ryder Cup room from a management perspective. And I get the impression, talking to those around Keegan, that, he wants to be inspirational, to have them not only fighting for their country, but also kind of fighting for everybody else in the room. And if he gets that, he's going to have a very powerful team.
The prevailing wisdom was that Tiger Woods would be offered this position. Woods released this statement earlier today, quote, with my new responsibilities to the tour and time commitments involved, I felt like I would not be able to commit the time to Team USA and the players required as a captain. That does not mean I wouldn't want to captain a team in the future if and when I feel it is the right time. I will put my hat in the ring for this committee to decide. That's not going to be a very tough decision. It's really going to be whatever year Tiger Woods wants to do it. Todd, what is your reaction to what you just heard?
Yeah, there was a lot said in that statement there. He is trying to protect the PGA Tour's legacy, and they're, coming together, it looks like, or at least trying to, with the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. He is part of the transaction subcommittee, one of 7 that is actually sitting across the table with the Saudis trying to put a deal together. So that is a big, heavy amount on his plate right now. But one other thing, too, he's going to be 49 this December. And he understands that the sun is setting on his career, and he really wants to win one more. I'm sure he'd love to win a major, but if he can win another PGA Tour event, he becomes the all-time winningest player on the PGA Tour with 83 wins. And I think that's inspiring him, too. If he took the role of Ryder Cup captain, you know, the chances of him trying to do that, along with what's going on with the PGA Tour and PIF, that would be very difficult. But hey, Keegan Bradley is your captain. Hey, man, I'm in New York City. Right there, that's the Empire State Building. Let me just tell you, next year, this city is going to be loud and proud trying to root on the United States team against the Euros. And I'm sure Keegan's going to have everybody peaking on the spirit meter as well.